And we're live.
Hello, I'm Justin. I'm the DM, and you are joining us. We are House to Civic or House to 20, and we are finally wrapping up our recap of our long and lengthy campaign thus far. The exciting part of it will be that in 2 weeks we will have a live play, actual live play D&D session that picks up where we'll leave off today, and it'll be really exciting and fun. And that's where we'll continue and go forward. Not to recap ever again, but we wanted to bring ourselves and you up to speed with what's going on, and to introduce our characters.
I'm Doug, and I play Phidias Mazarak, a drow shaman.
And I'm Wes. I play Enceladus, who is a Bryloka warlock.
And I'm Joe, and I play an assassin known as Gurs the Immortal.
I am Jake One. I play Celestine, the Warforged Paladin, as well as Thrax, the human monk.
And unable to join us are Jake 2, who plays Rook, the Revenant Artificer, and Jeremiah, who plays Vakias, the Minotaur Druid. So, where did we leave off last time?
Well, before we pick up, I do want to apologize to the viewers. Normally, we'll have some background music, some ambient music, but the service that we use to set up our music has recently been shut down, and we didn't have enough time to find another service before the stream, so you're just going to hear our lovely voices tonight.
That's exactly right. Our lovely sing-songy voices.
Minus Jeremiah.
Minus Jeremiah, yeah.
Who would actually be singing?
Yeah.
Minus our Disney portfolios. So, last time, I think we were on an airship. Weren't we on an airship last time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had just lost Celestine and gained Celestine. And we're headed towards Arganessen. Is that correct?
That's
right.
Yep.
Correct,
Yep.
correct.
Correct.
I wanted to...
Unusual.
I think we're sort of stunned still at the change of events, but yeah.
I uncovered a few facts that I think I forgot last time. The name of the airship that you're traveling on is the Califera, and the name of the captain is Falwyn Lorander.
That's right.
And he is a dragon-marked captain of House Lorander who can command the elemental that is bound around the belly of the ship and causes it to be able to fly in the air. So, anyway. And last time you had the old switcheroo happen to your Warforged character. And you have now another Warforged that's a very generic build, who has all of the memories of Celestine, but none of the powers that you can tell at this point. And he speaks in very funny, robotic kind of tone and timbre, and he claims to sort of know all of you and know all about all of you. So, a little confusing.
Theoretically, he does. So you can know about people you don't really know them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Theoretically, he knows absolutely everything about you and has been and has done all the things that you have all done together. So, but you are looking at a very, very, very different Warforged than you had before. So, yeah. Anyway, and you are, Jake has taken over. Jake 1 has taken over play of the monk that was traveling with you, named Thrax, and this is the encounter and the time when he fully takes the reins. And as you're traveling towards Arganessen, in the middle of the misty night, a dragon lands on the deck. Sort of a young copper-colored dragon lands on the deck and starts to talk in Draconic to everybody. Yeah. And this was fun because I found some Draconic phrases spoken as if they were spoken from a dragon, and I played them for everybody. And
Yeah.
and it was kind of fun because Thrax, is the only one that could understand all of those phrases and was able to translate for everybody.
Yeah.
And do you guys remember the gist of the conversation?
All I remember is the voice just sounded amazing. The language was like this deep, kind of like, not guttural, but like just rich, like just
Yeah.
exactly like you'd imagine a dragon. The words just.
It sounded almost like deep speech.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a preset in Roll20, so that was the fun part of it. Is I didn't have to search too far for it. I just had to find a couple things in Roll20, and then press a few buttons.
And did you like type in text? And
No,
it
no,
just.
I made up text from what it was like. Like I listened
what it had.
to it, and then I thought I can make up my own text from here.
Nice.
Cool.
So I made up my own quotes, sort of following the way the sound bites, kind of, the way the sort of the geography of the sound bites went. I wrote some text. And then I wrote some text for Thrax too, basically saying like, "Hey, they said this," and then he said something, and then it was sort of a conversation that was out of your guys' hands. But the result is basically this dragon was saying, "Hey, you don't belong here. You're not supposed to be here, and I have every right to destroy you." And Thrax was like, "Hey, we have permission. We're here on a mission. I am of the Draconic Order." And the dragon saying, "Well, I guess that's okay," and then he leaves, and you guys are allowed to continue.
If only Roll20 had a phrase like, "Here is your friend Celestine. I had him the whole time. I return him to you now."
Yeah, I mean, in all my translations, I did never find that one, so I don't think we couldn't have used that. Yeah, you guys were still like, this was the encounter after your friend was just the swap, the instant swap of your friend was just really like fresh in your minds, and your decision to continue on was you didn't decide to turn from your original path, decided to continue in the direction of the original mission. Even missing a player. Was there a decision there, or was it just because Jake picked up the other character that kept you on your path? Do you guys remember how that all went down?
I remember feeling uncomfortable about moving forward without one of our characters, and I think the decision to move forward is just because he just disappeared. I think we tried to like go after him a little bit, but there's this like, oh, I think we tried to send like bats or like
The owl.
The owl or something, but it could not fly fast enough, and
it was made pretty apparent that we were not going to find Celestine without completely abandoning.
Yeah.
I think it became
We
obvious.
just chase after him.
And really, we didn't. It seemed like we didn't really know where to start looking, right? Like,
Yeah.
we were kind of. It felt helpless.
Yeah, you kind of had a zero breadcrumb scenario. Like there was no leads.
It became just totally obvious once we couldn't chase him down. It wasn't working out. He's already gone. And then once it was revealed that Jake was playing this new character, we're like, okay, we got to move forward.
Yeah.
If I recall, you guys also kind of came to the conclusion that Celestine wasn't the one that needed to be rescued in that situation.
Yeah, fair enough.
Boy, I feel bad for those guys that tried to grab him.
Yeah. Yeah, like skulls would be crushed. And,
yeah.
And he's fine. We'll pick him up at some point.
Yeah. He'll find us.
Celestine has apparently taken some kidnappers captive.
That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they won't keep them for long. They're gonna have a bad time.
Right.
But if they were able to replace him with, a fake
That's
Celestine,
true.
actually
Yeah.
access all of his memories, like that means they were able to actually get to him in some way.
And that's something that we never got to the bottom of. We did later on find out what happened to Celestine, but we got no explanation of how and what are Celestine, like what's his deal, what should become of him, et cetera, et cetera. There's still a lot of unresolved things, even more than a year, well, a year later.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's like so much to think about that then there's a moment like, oh, we still have a Warforged that thinks he's Celestine.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to resolve that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Maybe
then,
at some point you'll have two Warforged that think that they're Celestine.
Right.
well, I mean, we have yet to breach that, and we can probably talk about that at the end of end of this podcast, this cast. But like, you definitely still have a Warforged, yeah, like you said, that believes that he is Celestine, and is yet very much not Celestine. And when and if you do find Celestine, you'll have two. Like you will have two that maybe have like this fork in their path. Like the parallel universe concept, where you if you could copy yourself, or like Multiplicity, that movie with Michael Keaton.
One will be the maid, and the other one will be the.
Well,
copy.
maybe they can both be like given appropriate path to greatness, right? I mean, is there a path to greatness for both Celestines in this world?
I think it'd be interesting to bring them together.
We will find out.
Yeah,
maybe
and
find out.
See
what happens if it creates another day of mourning
together?
Oh
because
no.
like Celestine coming in and Celestine might, they might be able to have a conversation with each other about the reality of the situation that
Right.
we haven't been able to have with Celestine.
Right.
And then Celestine might be able to sort of accept
Right.
his identity upon himself, and I don't know.
And this is why I decided to do that. Like this right here, the nut of this is why I thought it would be really fun to have a parallel path. But
because they're so tactful and understanding, and
yes,
that'll be a really great conversation. No, you're a simulacrum. Your life is meaningless.
It's gonna be like watching Alexa speaking to Google Dot.
Yeah, so that's a question. Does anyone know if like you can pit Alexa against like Siri, or like can you have them?
I have seen an infinite loop, but you need to have Alexa, Siri, and Google.
Okay.
There are videos that are really interesting about these two different devices actually like arguing against each other
Nice.
at different points.
And that's beautiful, because I haven't ever put a toe in that water, and I think that's a fantastic concept, and I really think that we might get there if we find Celestine and also get Celestine in the same room together. So man, I love it. It's a great idea.
I do remember there was a time when we were still figuring out what Celestine's deal was, and if he had the memories, and if this was really somebody just putting us on. And Gers employed one of his interrogation techniques, which involved some stabbing and some pain, just to see if that had any effect on Celestine, and it did. It made him very distressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're using.
But he seemed to be telling the truth.
Yeah, that's right. Right. As if it were his experienced memories, like as if he actually experienced them. They were his memories. So, anyway, so you made it through that situation with the dragon and realized that Thrax actually has something to add, and he was able to keep you guys safe and not drop into an encounter with a juvenile bronze dragon, a copper dragon, however that would have played out. He was able to negotiate his way to keep going, on the path to Arganessen and to eventually get to talk to a dragon. So you guys land, and you happen to land at a sort of a small human monastery, and the monastery is devoted to the worship and sort of practice of dragon magic, full of monks. Um, I feel like a lot of the time you were distracted by Celestine, and so because this was a very, very new concept, you guys were very, you were having to account for a Warforged with all of the memories and zero capabilities, um, and you met the sort of the Grand Master or the leader of the monks, and he was very like kung fu master like. He was very very like his eyes closed and yet he could see you. He was levitating. He had his third eye was open sort of scenario, and he was very aware of what was going on and aware of the learning that you needed to do in order to continue. Joe, do you have anything written down about that? No. Okay.
Sorry.
No, no,
this
that's
point in life, at this point in life, we had kind of gone to, we had gone to Discord and Roll20, and it was all still kind of new. And I stopped writing in my journal for a couple weeks, so I apologize. I don't have great notes for
no.
a
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think all of us we all kind of remember what that felt like. For me it was I in the lore, the northern coast of the continent of Arganessen, and I don't have a map to show anyone, but the northern coast is where humans, typically land, like the northwestern coast. There are a couple of human settlements up there, but what I decided to do was flip that on its head and make the southern coast the place that humans land, rather than the north coast. And I sort of made some sort of like dragon devotee sort of camps or groups that kind of were on the southern fringe of the continent, and most of them were sort of like these monk like training facilities that pretty much were devoted in worship to the idea and the magic and the concept of these dragons being like demigods sort of thing, and that's kind of where Thrax came from. So the point of the story was for him to come back, traveling abroad, kind of seeing the world, experiencing life, and then realizing, hey, I really need more training. I need to be centered. I need to come back to my community and kind of have a time of meditation. And the master kind of, in meeting all of you and in realizing that Thrax was back, sort of said, hey, you want to see dragons, Thrax would be a good guide for you to make it and make it towards being able to see and to have an audience with these dragons.
Well, yeah, if I recall, you guys said that we had to go through the trials,
Yeah.
in order to get a council with the dragons, which was something that Thrax was interested in doing anyways, because he's a disciple of Bahamut and would like to know what his meaning is, what his purpose is, and to get centered.
Yeah.
So he kind of agreed to go with the group, kind of on his own for his own reasons, and to be helpful at the same time. It was kind of like, well, I'm going, you want to go with me type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was meant to be a sort of a two-option path. One is you can be invited into the court of the dragons in order to have a conversation with them or be, present with them, or you could go through the trials, or what they call the trials, in order to be worthy of being, having court or having time with them. So, because you didn't have an invitation, your options were limited to going through the trials in order to, or the pilgrimage in order to actually be be worthy of an audience. And in this this group, this monastery, it was kind of a next step for Thrax. It was kind of a rite of passage on some level. It did sort of mean a different thing. Um, and it was sort of like the, you know, you can train so much in the theory and the idea, and you know, using some of the magic in connection with the with dragon magic, but your next step is to actually go through the trials and to kind of see behind the curtain, and have that level of connection with the dragons. um, and then you would be given sort of um, a reason for being, or you know, like a mission, or a kind of you know, kind of a reason for being a monk and being a devoted to dragons, because of that trial. So you know, you kind of asked around a little bit about John, you know, because that's what your whole point is, to come and you know, the rest of the group is trying to find John, the purple, the ladron who went to seek the um, seek audience with the dragons, and be able to ask them questions about the Serani and about solitude and things, you know, in that nature. And you kind of got the idea that she had to go through the trials too, because she didn't have an invitation with audience, you know, or for an audience with the dragons. And so you thought, well, I mean, that's the path we need to take. The master is giving us, you know, Thrax to kind of help us be our guide, and so you decided to go in that direction. Um, and does anyone remember anything else about that? You left Celestine behind.
Yeah, we gave him a task to, I think, count bricks and sweep.
Mm-hmm.
And to steal.
Yeah, Thrax taught him a sleight of hand trick
Oh,
of,
it wasn't Thrax.
or I'm
It
sorry,
was
not Thrax.
Gers.
Gers was, yeah, Gers taught him how to lift stuff, and he was pretty good at it.
Yeah, just to be sneaky, or just, I don't know, improve his skills, have something to do,
Mm-hmm.
something to work on.
So we might say that he has now multi-classed from being a paladin to now being a paladin rogue, right?
He's got like a half a level in Paladin.
Yeah.
I don't know. At some point along the trip, Gers went from like really hating this thing to have it kind of a soft spot for him. Something
Yeah,
like
yeah, right. Maybe because he realized that he wasn't a threat, or he wasn't malicious in any way,
that. Deceptive.
and deceptive. Yeah, that's really big for Gers.
Hmm.
So you guys left him behind with a task, and you know, sort of a fun thing to learn and to practice and to do. And he was perfectly fine with that. He said, "Okay, yeah, good. You know, I'll sweep and keep an eye out, and I'll take what I need, or what would be useful." And so you went on your way, and because it's the South Coast, you guys were traveling north, and it's sort of like the trials, or the pilgrimage, is a set of stations that take you further to the north through the desert, and there are these encampments, these tent encampments, as you go. And anyone want to describe the tent encampments?
It just, I remember it being something like it felt like a big yurt sort of thing at the center of these different pilgrim mile markers.
Mm-hmm.
And there were always these like hucksters lined up outside each of these, trying to sell their, you know, or hawk their different like tchotchkes on the road, saying this will help you on the next stage of your journey. And of course, nothing did. It's all souvenirs, but
Right.
You didn't really know what you were going to encounter once you went into each different yurt, and you had to like prepare for. How did we prepare for that? Did we have to change clothes into a robe? And
Yeah,
there
we
was like
did.
okay, there was like a meditation part. Did we drink something?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought we consumed something
It
that.
was like, seemed like it was a trance induced or a drug induced trance state. Then
Yeah.
there would be a different effect. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was based on the drink or what. But I know by the time we got to like the second trial, kind of felt like, when you ride up to a stable in Breath of the Wild and you're like, oh yeah, it looks the same, and you go in, it's kind of the same type of people and the same like, oh okay, this is a familiar situation, new place, new trial, but kind of there's a routine here.
Hmm. Yeah, so it was this tent, kind of at the end of this, this marketplace, and it's all in the middle of the desert, so it very was sort of like a permanent yet sort of a pop up sort of sentient, kind of feel to it. And yeah, there were hucksters and there were people that were trying to sell you, heroic potions and things that would get you through your trial. And the station was the trial, and you guys were like, I don't know what's going on. You walk into this tent. These guards are, you kind of say, hey, we're here for the first trial of the pilgrimage, and they say, oh yeah, go on in. And it was late the first time you showed up, and there's one attendant at this small little sort of reception desk, and they say, oh yeah, okay, so go on over here and change into these robes, and then you can see that there's this brazier kind of um, yeah, kind of in the center there, and there's cushions kind of all around the this brazier in the center, and then the person at the desk says, hey, I have to prepare your drink, so just kind of hang out, and they kind of are mixing stuff together, and they're preparing the number of drinks that there are people kind of there, and um, they kind of prepare you a little bit but don't tell you too much, and then they say, here, everyone drink, and you all kind of just go bottoms up, and so you're sitting with these very simple robes, weaponless, armorless, and suddenly you all are mentally transported just into this otherworldly realm, um, and you have your armor and you have your weapons and you have your powers, and it's almost like you're on this sort of floating island in the middle of another plane. um, and do you guys remember what the first one was?
That one was
Is it the
inside the
eye?
dragon. Oh no, you're right. You're right. It was the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, was it a beholder or something?
It was a beholder, yeah, for sure. It was kind of this ghostly beholder, and it couldn't see. Um,
Yeah, remember that.
it
And
was
it had
blind.
it had one eye that was very sparkly though, didn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of glassy. And once you defeated the beholder, then you like, did it like shrivel or something, or did it
I
like?
thought that the beholder shriveled and the eye fell down to the ground and was turned into something else, didn't it?
Yeah, the eye was left, and you could pick it up.
Yeah. I remember being able to pick it up, and we were trying to figure out what to do with it.
And
I remember
then,
somewhere.
well, you guys were hanging on to it, and then a Cyclops showed up, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cyclops was complaining. He was holding his eye, and he was complaining about how it hurt and he couldn't see.
And
Um,
Vakaya speaks giant,
yeah,
so we were able to communicate with the Cyclops without having to fight it at all.
right. Because there was that, obviously you have all of your weapons and all your powers and stuff like that, and you very well could have like tried to fight it and defeat it, but instead you took the eye from the beholder, and you gave it to the Cyclops and gave him sight, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes
And
sense.
and in the end, he sort of gave you some level of like of blessing, because of that, and thanked you for vision, and then you woke up, and you were still seated in those cushions around the cooking fire, and you were exhausted because you had had this otherworldly trip, and it was almost morning, but you had completed the first stage of the pilgrimage.
And was there a name for the first stage?
Yeah, it was called the Eyes of Sybaris. Sybaris. and I think the different the way I did it was the different names kind of followed the anatomy of a dragon, kind of like from tip to tail, and we're trying to establish the you know the being of a dragon, and you were supposed to identify with all of the different parts of the being of the dragon.
Which is interesting because I just remember like completing it once we sort of entered the anus of the dragon. It was at that point it was like, oh yeah, this is completed. We just went through the entire like body of a dragon, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
I
right.
thought we
Right.
exited through the anus, but okay.
Sure.
Right, we exited the anus. Thank you. We entered the mouth. We exited the anus.
I mean, there's more details, and we'll get there. The next one, you guys remember what? So the attendant said, "Hey, like, congratulations, you made it through." And then on your palm, all of you had a glowing mark. It was a glowing,
Hmm.
mark of that mark of passage of that particular pilgrimage stop. And so, whenever you lifted your palm, you could see this this draconic mark on your palm that you had created. You had completed that level in the pilgrimage. And so they kind of encouraged you. They said, "Hey, cool. If you follow, that path to the north, you'll get to the next one." And then, does anyone remember what the next one was?
Well, it was a week later for one thing. Each of these trials basically took 1 week.
Right. They were.
And there was expected to be 7 trials. Is that
No.
right? 4? There's only 4?
Yeah.
It seemed like 7.
I'm sure that it seemed like, well,
It probably took us 7 weeks.
it probably took you 7 weeks, and there were 4 of them. 4 marks, 4 trials.
Yep.
Right. So the next one.
This was the one inside the.
No. That's the third one.
Oh, okay.
The second one was this this like bubbling cauldron, like demon plane, where there were like open lava pits and things like that. And you were supposed to reenact part of dragon history, where you were supposed to like cage a demon. Like, you were supposed to defeat the demons, because in the lore of Eberron, there was a big clash between dragons and demons in the Age of Demons, and you were supposed to sort of enact the idea that you had entrapped, and actually maybe that was the third one.
I was gonna say, wasn't there we reenacted the creation of
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. I'm going off of the encounters that I created, and I just totally missed one. So the second one was going through the digestion, or the tract of a dragon. So you start at its mouth, and this map is crazy. Start at its mouth, and you can go down through its throat, into its lungs, into its heart, kind of going through. Does anyone remember like what you guys found in the?
Yeah, we found like a bunch of digested things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
They just
including like people, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of people. And there was a lot of backtracking, and there was going down different paths and into different organs, and you found people that were sort of zombie-like. They were kind of half alive. They had been consumed and were partially digested by the dragon. And some of them said, "Kill me, take me out. Destroy me. I don't want to live anymore."
And we were kind of nervous because we knew this was a test, and we're like, "Don't touch anything."
You were super reluctant to touch anything or kill anything, and
That's a good call when you're having a dream that you're inside of a dragon.
Right. Right.
I think. I don't know.
You found some children though too, right?
Hmm. And
And
we kind of figured like, okay, this is the test. We have to get them out.
right.
That's
Yeah.
what we're thinking.
Tried to save him. Yeah.
And so you're thinking like, so what are you thinking at that point? You're thinking mouth is the exit or like other end?
Well,
is
we
the
were
exit?
thinking the mouth, but the path was way too dangerous, and
I
we
just
didn't.
remember thinking that the mouth wasn't the way because we had looked everywhere, like around the mouth before we entered into the throat, and it was pretty obvious it was just kind of like a one-way journey. So we had to keep pushing to find another way.
Yeah, I mean, I know what I was thinking as far as how I wanted to orchestrate this, but what I would love to know, like, this is the first time that I put up a dragon's digestive tract for you guys to explore.
I
You
think
say
the
that
thought,
like you say that like it's not the last time.
When he says first,
I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future?
exactly.
I can't guarantee anything.
I just remember like Phidias's thought process was, okay, we've encountered some children. These are innocents. We need to find a way to rescue them and get them out. And remember him being surprised and then remembering at the end of it all, like, oh yeah, this is just a dream sequence. Um, and so I think that in Phidias's mind, like, it was sort of the feeling of like failure was inevitable and the purpose
Hmm.
of the exercise when it comes to
Interesting.
the dragon being and you being inside that dragon.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Didn't we? Well, I just remember we were trying to save these kids, right? And didn't we get like close to the end and the exit, and we found like a a baby dragon or something like that, or a baby.
So, I mean, if we're, I know this is really explicit, but from the anus, you watched a dragon be born. Like you were standing at the exit, and you saw Sybaris like be born from its mother and fall to Eberron and become Eberron. Like that's what you actually did. Like, but in the meantime, like I don't remember what did you guys do with the kids? Like, did you did
Well,
you
we
guys
were
some of
trying
them got like
to save
devoured
kids.
or something.
We didn't. Yeah, we didn't do very well in saving the kids. I don't think.
well didn't the kids get eaten by the baby dragon that was born?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
baby dragon fed on the kids, and we
Yeah.
were all horrified. And we were watching. I remember
Right.
that feeling of like, this is not the way I thought this was going to go.
So here's something interesting. You know, and I don't know how well I did this, but you were supposed to take the perspective of the dragon. You were supposed to be the dragon. You were supposed to be the dragon that was being birthed. You were supposed to follow that track, and yet you were human trying to save the humans. And the point of the exercise was to be the dragon and consume the humans and identify with the dragon. But you had such a hard, difficult time. Even as characters, you had a difficult time becoming the dragon and not be the humans that were trying to save the humans. And I thought that was a really interesting, interesting thing because the trial is to identify and to become the dragon in order to get audience with the dragon.
Well, I mean, clearly we missed syllabus day.
Yeah, the master didn't give you hardly any information to go on.
We
before
just
the-
knew that we were completing a trial to become worthy of having counsel with the dragons.
Right.
So we're like, all right, we're gonna go do this thing to prove that we're like pretty sick, and then they'll listen to us.
Well, and the whole point was to, I mean, anyone who had already gone through it was not volunteering information. It was a you go in there and you figure it out
Yeah.
kind of scenario.
It was a secret club.
Yeah, it's a secret club.
Right. So you guys did okay, and in the end, you were forced to kind of identify with Sybaris falling towards the plane of Eberron and becoming the Earth, becoming the ground. You know, And so, but that was very. I felt like I had forced that at the end.
Yeah, because
Maybe
there was just space at the end,
there was just space
and
and falling.
then yeah,
Yeah, you were just kind of crashing down in the end, and you woke up and you were really confused, and you're like, "What did I just see? What did I just do?
did we
Where was
fail?
that? Did we fail? Did we succeed?" And you had a second mark on your hand, and you were like, "Okay, that's what happened, I guess." So you were successful in identifying with the birth of Eberron or the birth of Cerberus. Anyway, um, yeah, I don't know if my idea landed there very well, but
Well, I caught it because I did know a little bit about the three dragons
mhm,
of Eberron being the sky, the land, and the under.
yeah,
And so I knew what you're driving at, but it was only at the very end
right,
when we saw the dragon being born and becoming the land. I was like, oh,
right,
okay.
yeah. I felt like that encounter could have been the culmination of a whole, a whole campaign, or it could have been something that you guys were like, "I'm so glad I'm not in the belly of a dragon anymore. Let's move on." And, and either was fine with me, and it was perfectly okay if it was either. Anyway, so the third trial was you had to kind of uh, ensnare a demon, sort of enacting the demon wars in the history of dragons. And I don't remember too much about how that went down.
I don't either. That one, for some reason in my head, I'm like, oh, there was three,
Yeah,
and I don't know why.
I don't think I was even there. That might have been a week I skipped or something like that.
Yeah,
Because I know the one where we were defending the cliff.
yeah, that's the fourth one.
Yeah.
For, um,
That's right.
the third one is to get you on the side of the dragons in the Age of Demons, when the demons were captured in soul cages and bound and cast into the nine hells and pushed away, and Eberron was restored and made way for humanoids.
I feel like I kind of remember that one, but it's really blurry.
Yeah, it was a pretty straightforward battle, and you guys ended up, capturing a demon in the soul cage, and that was sort of
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe that's why I don't remember it, because it seemed pretty straightforward now that I think about it.
yeah, and yeah. Again, it was leaning a lot on the history of Eberron and the lore of Eberron, and and was significant in the way dragons kind of moved through that history. But yeah, it was just sort of a pleasantry. But the fourth one, you were pushed out onto a ledge, right?
Hmm.
And they were these, like, were they harpies, or were they, they something aerial was coming and attacking you.
Yeah, there
Um,
were harpies there.
There were harpies, but it seemed like they were guided by a central dragon,
yeah,
if I remember correctly. And the purpose was to die.
yeah. The purpose was to die. And that was to right. The purpose was to die.
It was like our blood sort of watered the ground that started the grass growing on the earth.
Right. Yeah, and that again was to sort of symbolize the sacrifice that the dragons have made in order to make a way for Eberron. Um, and I mean, I feel like out of all of our encounters in the whole campaign, um, I feel like I kind of missed on these four. They were entertaining and really weird, but I felt like the the point of connecting with the lore and of the history of dragons in Eberron kind of missed a little bit, but you kind of were on a ride. There was no way that you could get off the ride.
Well, I can say that from Phineas's perspective and from mine, because I had read a little bit of the lore of Eberron, that it did land. there just wasn't much availability to talk about it at the time, or
For sure,
to, like, be able to decompress because we just kept on pushing. But
yeah,
um, I could see at each one. Yeah, first of all, each one was surprising at the end. I didn't know what to expect, but once it was done, I could see where it was connecting
yeah.
with the lore, and each one was different in that way. So that was really fascinating as an exercise, from my perspective, even though I didn't speak up at the time.
So I wanted it to feel like you got a participation award. Like you didn't have to defeat anything. You didn't really even have to like win any of the battles in order to catch the. It was sort of like you get a stamp in your book if you go through the museum and find the one place that has the stamp pad, and you say, "Oh, this one matches," and you use the stamp on your little like dinosaur passport, where
Right.
you're trying to just collect all the stamps and say that yeah, I have seen the dinosaur exhibit at the museum.
Right.
So it wasn't meant to be this like I don't know. It was meant to be a reenactment of the history of dragons, but it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't know how to make that one like land the way I wanted it to land, but I don't know. It kind of worked. It was really weird. It was really odd, and it felt kind of rushed and not. I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, how did you guys feel about it?
Is the
I
third or the
didn't feel like
fourth?
I didn't feel like it was rushed. I felt like each stage had its own message, and it definitely connected to the lore. So I think it landed better than what you're thinking, Justin.
Yeah, that works.
Did you guys already cover the fourth one?
Yeah, we kind of did.
That one quite literally landed.
Yeah, it landed. And I think it was a combination between wanting to retell like dragon history of Eberron and also to get you to do things that you've never done before, and realize it was a dream. Like jumping off, like sacrificing yourself by jumping off of a cliff is not a normal PC thing for you to do. Like you don't decide to do that in any battles ever. But you're in a dream and you're going through this reenactment of history, and that was your only option. Um, like I don't know, I don't know. It just was it was weird for me, and I know that it was really weird for all of you. But
Well, it's a really cool idea, and I think thinking back on it now, I was just trying to evaluate like why is it's kind of fuzzy in my memory, and it wasn't like a really like connectedness moment. And thinking back now, this is just kind of a psychology of D&D thing and DM players thing. Is like you said, you were kind of going through getting your stamp, and that's kind of how it felt as a player at the time. Like, okay, we're doing this thing, and I don't know that I can really impact what's going to happen because I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or that, and we kind of didn't do a lot of anything, and so
right,
we were there kind of along for the ride, which is fine, um, and especially since I knew it was like, okay, we're doing this for 4 sessions. I'm along for the ride for 4 sessions, and even though it was really cool when you're like along for the ride, for me as a player, it doesn't like capture me as much, even though it's
for
like
sure.
my literally my favorite subject is Eberron. I love the world. I love being there, but it like there's something different about when we play the game and our decisions and everything we do really like it matters. You got to think about it more.
Hmm.
So, um,
Yeah, when the
I don't know.
DM
It
says,
was
"Are you sure?"
yeah, yeah. It was cool for no other reason than just than to see how much the I don't know your investment in the game impacts it. Like if we were going to do a whole campaign like that, I'd be like, I like hanging out with you guys, but I'll find something else to do.
Yeah,
Um, but as a couple of sessions, it was a cool thing.
That's true.
yeah. That's kind of what I felt about it too. I felt like I'm losing them. I'm losing them. Like this is just a
But
ride. It's just a ride at Disneyland to retell history.
it's just the way that the game goes too. You can play this game any number of different ways, and some nights are unexpectedly epic, and some nights are that they're gonna be just planned to be the greatest night ever, and they just kind of
Yeah.
True.
fizzle. The,
Yeah.
one
I
of the
guess
great things about the game.
I didn't know how to marry retelling history and a rite of passage and a Disneyland ride
Yeah.
and that level of like you guys have some level of autonomy and feel like you have accomplished something.
Right. Yeah. How do you do a game where people embrace a role, but it's also history, so there's a set outcome.
Yeah.
You know? It's
Well,
like
yeah, and it was arguably really bizarre. Like it wasn't just sort of like a hey, we have to put this key in this lock and then unlock. It was
right.
really bizarre. Like
Which is what made it like definitely worth like definitely those 4 sessions are extremely unique and interesting, and I wouldn't trade them, even though they weren't like your typical D&D sessions.
yeah,
They were just for that reason really cool.
yeah. So by the end of it, you had 4 marks on your palm, and you had completed the pilgrimage. You completed the rites of passage in order to gain audience with a dragon, which was the whole point. Um, and so you're led into this dragon city, which is also very vertical because they can kind of fly and move, and very large. The doors were huge. The everything was oversized, and you were brought into this very large chamber, and you were in audience with a dragon. Um, and I remember her name was Andre the Gifted One. Try to get back to my notes here. Um, yeah, her name was Andre, but she approached you not as a dragon, but as sort of, in some sort of humanoid, it's that kind of elvish form.
That's right.
Um, and do you guys remember like presenting your case or your question or your kind of, do you remember what you were talking about there?
I think we pretty much just asked her straight up if she had seen John the Purple.
Yeah. And she said yes, for sure. And that they had sent, she had a portal that went directly to Solitude, and John went right through the portal in order to kind of like go see for herself what was going on in Solitude. And
Thinking of it now, I can imagine the scene where John's like, "I am the wizard of portals," and the dragons are like, "Oh, that's cute. Here, look."
by the by, we've already done this,
Yeah, right.
no big deal.
You went there?
John.
But hey, that's a great commentary on dragon magic versus the magic of dragon shards in Eberron. Dragon shard magic is sort of like child's play compared to dragon magic, and so dragon magic is not accessible to like almost anyone except for the dragons. And so you have this incredibly powerful deep magic that is used by the dragons and no one else. If you read the lore and the history, the giants of Zendrick, 40,000 years ago, convinced the dragons to lend them their magic, and they went nuts. Like their brains were scrambled like fried eggs, scrambled eggs, because they tried to use dragon magic, and they opened all these portals to the gods of chaos and Zoriat, and they actually couldn't handle dragon magic, and the dragons were like, sorry, no big deal, we'll just go back to our place.
A quick side note, for any of our, one current viewer and anybody watching this in the future, the game D&D Online has an entire expansion setting that takes place in Madstone Crater, where that happened, where all of the dragons and the giants have been crystallized because of the magic going bad. It's kind of its own. It's kind of its own version of kind of like the Great Mourning. and there's an entire expansion and raid, and it was like probably one of my favorite settings in that entire game was getting to spend time in Giant Hold and trying to work with the giants and fighting dragons and all these creatures from Zoria. It was just really just like chef's kiss. Really fantastic setting.
Nice. Is D&D Online still a thing?
It is still a thing, and as far as I know, it is free to play. So you could hop on there and go check it out. I believe it's not accessible at level 1, so you're gonna have to do a little bit of grinding, but it's out there if you ever want to have that experience. And there's lore. It's not just a grindy game. So if you're ever really interested in that, all of it's canon, so you can jump in there and be a part of that. It's pretty
Nice.
cool.
So this dragon magic can just sort of like snap a finger, snap a scaly dragon claw, and open a portal to wherever they want. And so Andre says, "Hey, Jaunt just jumped through, and she wanted to see firsthand what was going on in Solitude, and she offered, hey, do you guys want to as well?" And you said, no, 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 we've already been there.
No.
Yeah, no, no,
That place sucked.
sorry.
We had the opportunity to go back and we said no.
That's right.
Well, the other thing too is that we're like, okay, going back but without Celestine
right. Yeah.
seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
But she did say, hey, open invitation, if you do need to get back to Solitude, like, you can come back here. You have an invitation to be with us, an audience, and we'll send you there if you need to.
I think one of the other thought processes, not only just like, okay, we probably need our tank before we go to Solitude, was if we go in there, we don't know when we're coming back, and we may never find Celestine again because of the time difference.
Yeah,
that was a really big one.
for sure. So your decision was like, hey, we need to find Celestine. We're not going to go.
There was one other small factor for Gers, which is that he had a job. He is an assassin. He works for an assassin's guild, and they had a job for him, and it was in 2 weeks when he originally got the job, and that time was coming up within like the next 3 or 4 days or something like that.
Well, and that was
so-
part. That was part of.
So
Yeah.
we had made an arrangement with Captain Falwyn that he was going to return to bring us back to Corvair, so that Gers could complete this job, which as an assassin is, you know what the job assassins have. So that was a small part of it for him as well. As no, I don't want to head off to Solitude, and I got this job to do, and because also part of that job was he was going to have his friends help him with the job, and he was excited for that.
Initially.
Yeah, he was and part of his motivation was he hadn't worked with people a lot before. He was getting excited that he was now working with people that could take care of themselves, and it was like exciting that he'd be doing this job with his friends, his group, anyway. So there's a small part of his decision to not go back to Solitude right then with the dragons.
So that also was a factor in deciding whether you were going to go back and go after Celestine or go to Arganessen, or it was one of the things that was a countdown timer that you guys had going about this job, and it was known even before you left for Arganessen. Like, it was one of those things where you're like, you calculated how much time it would take, calculated how long you would be there, and then whether you would be back for the actual job. And that was part of the calculations from the very beginning, before you got on the boat with Captain Falwyn. So you had like three bells ringing at one time of like, what do we do, when do we do it, how do we do this, what the timing is, how do we get back, and all the things that kind of go along with that level of planning and travel. So at this point, when Andre says, like, hey, I could send you to Solitude. You're like, no, 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 no. We have two things that we need to solve. One of them is very, very, pressure, like it's right now, and then the other one we need to do very, very much right after that. Um, you guys did though ask about the Draconic prophecy, and I don't want to glaze over that too much because there were two people in the party that really had some level of vested interest in understanding what the dragons thought of the Draconic prophecy. And this is a part of Eberron lore that some people tie to the morning. Some people tie to the end of the world. There's a sort of an apocalyptic feel to it, and some people tie to the houses and dragon marks and things like that. It's really, it's not, I mean, it is open ended in, laid out in the supplements that Keith Baker, kind of laid out and wrote. But it really is one of those giant, like story hooks that you can add in your story if you want, as this, this huge conclusion or this, motivation or reason behind activities and actions, celestial and terrestrial, and I don't know. You guys, Gers and Thrax both were interested in what the dragons thought of the Draconic prophecy. And do you guys remember what Andre told you about that?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I need to take notes like Joe does. If I recall, I recall her saying that there are different interpretations of it.
Yes, that is the main point that she said. She said there are specific people or dragons that are set on interpreting the stars and trying to figure out what the Draconic prophecy means, and none of them agree, and they all sort of have a different thought and different interpretation of what the prophecy is, how it is relevant to the dragons, and how it is also relevant to the humans in Eberron. So, which was a very unsatisfying answer to
So you got
both
your
of
Episcopalians over here, and then your Seventh Day Adventists
and your
over
Catholics
here.
who've been like here forever. And yeah, right.
Well, and especially to Gers, who then he had a conversation with Thrax about it, um,
Mhm.
because for Gers, he didn't he was never presented with there's more than one way to interpret this. He was originally presented with this draconic prophecy as, look at this great thing that we know all about and you can be a part of, and this is what it means
Mhm.
and this is what it does, and if you do this you're fulfilling your part of the prophecy.
Mhm.
And so that was like, it's he like kind of found his fate, and that's how he got into his job basically. And so then to hear that different people will manipulate this prophecy in different ways was very unsettling. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that came through in the conversation with Thrax about it.
It did a little bit.
It,
It's
yeah.
and then I think later they had a conversation again later, months later, more about that, but it's a still developing
Yeah.
thing.
We're bumping into some current themes that have not yet been resolved, but are still current, but being introduced now in the story. Did Thrax have any sort of reaction to the idea that the dragons didn't even know for sure what the Draconic prophecy meant?
For him, it was more frustrating because he was really hoping to get a divine message from Bahamut specifically.
Mhm.
So what Thrax was thinking the whole time was like, this dragon doesn't know what she's talking about. I still have to go find the real truth.
So the dragon devotee is doubting the dragon in front of him. That is,
Yeah. They're
you
like, get out of my
you
face
can't
with
be the
this
real
fake
God.
news. Let me go
They're
find
like,
the real news.
that's right. Yeah, that's fascinating.
That's his MO though.
Yeah,
Thrax is very stubborn.
yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I can at about this time. Well, okay. We were talking with the dragons, and there was also some all the dragons were not in agreement. Andre was telling us this stuff and said, and this is what I'm telling you, but not all the dragons here are in one accord. There's some that think this about solitude. There's some that think this, and I don't remember what the different viewpoints were. There was probably some people that thought we should just annihilate all the non-dragon races. I don't remember if there's anything you want
There
to add
were,
about that.
like the copper dragon that we ran into.
You can kind of, and this is where it becomes almost too real, but you can pretty much just extrapolate to all of the different religion positions in our current world. Like there are the nihilists, there are the fundamentalists, there are the extremists, there are the nationalists. Um, Everyone sort of co-opts the draconic prophecy to put weight behind their thought process and their way of being. And so and that was the main point of that answer and that interaction, is that no one truly knows what the draconic prophecy is, and there are a lot of speculation about what it is, but those that are opportunists co-opt it for their own
Manipulate it.
for their own motivation. I mean, for their own desires, which is, it becomes either frustrating or unifying. It depends on how you want it, how you want to use it. But I wanted it to be very open-ended, and I wanted it to be something that didn't have a definitive answer, and maybe will have a definitive answer, but not at this point, because we are bringing in 6 different people from 6 different locations, having 6 different messages and nationalist identities and things that are we're creating a group here of separate people, and whether or not they'll be unified by a single prophecy or whether they'll be unified by a single goal remains to be seen. So that's what it was. I don't want to belabor that point, but I wanted to make sure to bring that up, because that was you got it right from the dragon's mouth, as it were, about the draconic prophecy right then and there, and that was significant to a few of the players. So anyway, you were on a timeline. Gers had a job to do. You had a timeline.
We had to get back.
You had to get back. So
I don't know why y'all went along with it. Did I tell y'all I needed your help with it, or?
Well, so from what I remember, you at our camping trip kind of said, "Hey, I want to do something. Like I want to expose Gers a little bit more as a character to the group, and I want to have them help me with something." Yeah. In order to feel like we're more unified, rather than being this standoffish character. And so, and I don't remember how you sold it, but
I'm wondering if the group remembers if Gers told them that he needed help, or what, how did he recruit the whole group? Because behind the scenes, Justin was like, "You could do this job yourself. You can just go back and do it. You don't need everybody." But
easy.
Gers made a decision that he wanted the whole group to, if they would.
Gosh, I feel like, I don't think I really remember.
Okay.
Wes, do you remember?
I think I need. I remember something, but what? I need you to remind me.
Here, I don't remember either. But I do know that I had this time posted a meme, and there must have been maybe another side mission, but it says, if I had a nickel for every time the monk punched a dragon to death, I'd have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 3 times.
I like that.
So didn't the monastery send us to?
Yeah, we were waiting for the airship to come back, and we wanted to get just some more clarity about the draconic prophecy from the monks at the monastery, and they sent us to a cave They
What?
said, tell
Yeah.
us the color, like tell us the color of their eyes or their hair or something.
It was a thing that the master had said to you. So he basically said, "Hey, it looks like you went through the trials. By the way, don't tell anyone about the trials." And he said, it's sort of an insight, and he's sort of like you're on the inside now, so you can see that it's simply a museum ride where you get a stamp at the end of it. And he kind of held up his hand, and you saw his glowing, like runes too. And he also informed you that you have the ability to make them disappear and reappear whenever you wanted to after getting the fourth one at that point. So it was sort of like a secret, kind of
They just hold the black light up to your wrist and they let you in.
right, exactly. It was a way to kind of prove to dragons and those that have been through that hey, me too. I have all the symbols, sort of thing, and they show up whenever you want them to. So, but then he said, hey, like I know you're waiting for your boat, but I have another thing that you might want to do. There's this these ruins in the desert to the east, and there's someone there that I'd want you to meet. And I think like the only thing I want you to do is just tell me what the color of her eyes are, and that would be good enough. And you guys were like, huh, what? Let's okay, let's do that. Let's go there. And so you told Celestine again, like, hey, keep sweeping, good job. And he didn't Celestine hand you like a bag of coins, Gers, and like say,
Look, I learned real good.
like, and you're like, yeah, just keep that under your hat. Don't tell anyone that you stole these things, or or something.
Now go put them all back.
Yeah, now go put them all back.
Hey, I
Let
do
anybody
remember
know
you
you're
telling
putting
him
them
that. Go put them all back and
Yeah,
don't get caught.
and he was like, yes, I will. Very good, friend Gers. I'll do that. So, so you guys traveled, a little bit, like, not even a half a day's journey to the east, and you found this entrance to this sort of sunken cave, and I described it as sort of like the temple face at Petra, in the Middle East, where this facade is sort of carved into the wall of a canyon, and then there's kind of a valley and canyon walls right next to you and everything, and you kind of like go into it, and then you're sort of you kind of get into this scuffle with these hawk people and these hawks, and then there's this giant flying serpent that sort of shows up and kind of speaks to you and says, my only task is to prevent you from entering this temple, and it's my life's work, and I would be honored to defeat you, and you guys fight it, and it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard.
It was pretty hard.
Like it wasn't a walk in the park.
Yeah, Gers
And
almost died if I recall.
yeah, Joe isn't here, but for the moment. But yeah, I think he made some critical like group dynamic errors, I think, in what he was doing, and that's why he almost died.
I think he ended up using some invisibility to sneak up on the big
He did.
boogin,
And he
and
got-
nobody was there,
Right.
and his butt got touched.
It did. Yeah. It got touched, and this thing would kind of shoot off random electrical charges, and he was the closest to it, and it hit him a couple times randomly on the butt with some high voltage electricity, and he was invisible and didn't have a way to call for help or say, hey, I'm here, or like come heal me, because you guys were at the very other end of the map, and it was a fairly large map, and you were dealing with other scenarios and other situations with some of the Hawkmen,
Mm-hmm.
and
So he's just invisible, not so slowly dying.
Right. Yeah. I don't remember if he falls unconscious or not. I think he might.
He did.
Oh, actually, he does. And I remember we had to stop the encounter like towards the end, and so there was a cliffhanger where he was in the dying condition. He was rolling to see if he would stay alive, and then we stopped the encounter, and then we started up like 2 weeks later or something like that. And so he was in the dying
2 weeks
condition.
in the middle of a dying
Yeah,
condition roll.
he was like in the dying condition the longest that any of our player characters have ever been in the dying condition, just because of circumstance. But anyway, so he eventually he didn't die, and you guys were able to defeat the flying serpent, and all was calm and good. And then you walked into the temple,
And there was much rejoicing.
and there was much. You threw the holy hand grenade, and at the count of three, at the number three, anyway, yeah. So you made it into the temple, which was it was had this funny little like pyramid monolith in the center, and it was like totally silent, and you kind of all wandered around it, started to try to press any little button or recess you could find in order to make something activate. And then by the time you guys all kind of like said stuff, this this ghost of sorts kind of comes out from the periphery and kind of comes into view. And do you guys remember what the ghost looked like? And probably don't
It was
remember.
a dragonkin.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a dragonborn, and her name was Methne. And she introduced herself and said she was really old and had been there for a really long time. And she gave you each a prophecy. And do you guys remember what your prophecies were?
I remember that Thraxus was to open his third eye, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I'll read all of them, like what I actually wrote and read to you guys. But
here I can read what I wrote
Okay,
as my
yeah.
notes, because I thought
Phidias.
this was important. So, let's see here. My prophecy was, "You shall open the gate, take the 1, tie it to the 2, and make 3 become 1."
Yes. Yes.
So I thought that was significant enough. I'm gonna write it down and keep it in notes.
Yes.
Say it one more time.
It says, "You shall open the gate, take the 1, tie it to the 2, and make 3 become 1."
Yes. Man, I can't wait for that to manifest.
That sounds like the end of the campaign, honestly.
Mine was talking about how something that I've lost will be returned to me.
Yeah, the actual quote was, "What was lost will be found as it should be."
And that made all of us nervous.
No!
Yes, right. Because if you live to this point, you have an idea of what was lost and what needed to be found as it should be.
Unless there's something that Enceladus isn't telling us about, we all just like is talking about the Rod of Chaos and we hate it.
The Rod of Chaos that has caused more chaos than it has caused Rod.
There's no joy.
There's no joy.
But the key is, as it should be. We never even talked about the possibility that
That mean, like, as it should be found, like it's
should
been
be.
lost to a
Right.
different dimension.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, or if we remember what the rod was and what it was doing, who knows what'll happen if that's
It was
completed.
entity that's trying to reassemble itself, right?
Yeah. The DM should make no comment here about anything. And
No,
speculate.
because this is just what the characters were, after they get their prophecy, they're sit around and they talk about, what could it mean? What could it mean?
Right.
Well, we know that it was trying to reassemble itself. What
Right.
does that mean?
Gers, do you remember what your prophecy was?
To open my
Something
third
that was
eye.
kind of not as thrilling, but I can't remember what it was. I didn't write it down.
It is, death isn't the end. It is the beginning of all things. The Reaper is coming.
Oh, sorry. When you said Gers, I got confused. I was like, that wasn't mine.
No. Now, Thrax, do you remember what yours was, Thrax?
Yeah, mine was that I would be opening something along the lines of opening my third eye.
Yeah. It says, prepare for the time when your third eye will open and force you to consider another way.
Which he didn't like.
Which he did not like. He's like, close that third eye. Stop it. Don't want to consider anything else.
No dragons, no future.
All right, I didn't write it down the first time. I'll write it down this
Giants
time.
are enemies.
Death isn't the end.
Death isn't the end. It is the beginning of all things. The Reaper is coming.
I remember thinking that's me.
But wait a minute, that's me. I think you even said that after you were given that prophecy. So just to go over the two that aren't here, Rook's was so Vakias's first, and Vakias is is Jeremiah's character, the Minotaur Druid. His was, you will open a restaurant in Korth where you retire and live to a ripe old age. And I remember Jeremiah being super excited about that. And from then on, now he's asked a lot of different times, do I get to learn cooking? Where do I start my food cart? Like, how does this happen?
Jeremiah's was so chill in comparison to everyone else's. Literally everyone else's.
Right.
And he's the most excited about
And
it.
he's like, I am 2 steps away from this. How does this happen? I need this to happen. Everyone else was like, I don't want this to happen.
The Reaper's coming. You're gonna have to stop being a racist. Like,
you're the key to everything.
You're about to go do some Messiah shit.
And Chaos will come back. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The last one was Rook, and this one was also interesting.
Didn't he not get one?
I hope Jake kind of does something with this, but Methany says, I'm sorry, I see nothing. No past, no present or future. I must be tired. And she sort of kind of stepped back at that point and didn't admit that she had never not been able to read someone's future, but said, go on your way, be blessed, and I must retire at this point. And she disappears. She sort of like particleizes into nothing. And you all are left after this really difficult fight with these really funny fortune cookie fortunes. And do you remember what color her eyes were?
Purple?
I don't actually.
I
I remember they were what?
They were light blue.
Okay.
Light blue.
I remember at the time I remembered, but now I don't.
That's right, yeah. So you were able to report that they were light blue.
Yes.
And the master said, "Oh, good." And I don't want to hear anything else, just that they were light blue. And he knew that you had received messages about your future, but didn't.
He didn't inquire.
Didn't want to discuss. Didn't want you to tell. Didn't want you to. Wanted you to sit with your information and mull it over. And so
very much so. The sage. Your journey is your own.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right.
Her eyes were blue, but not so heavy.
Right. So the Califera shows up. Falwyn, kind of says, "Hey, let's go," and he informs you that his assistant mages, the ones that were sort of suspicious before, sort of took off and weren't there anymore, and he needed Vakias's help, as he is sort of an elemental druid, to help with the ship, the flight back to Corvair. And you all sort of were like, oh yeah, we knew that they were super sneaky and they probably orchestrated the abduction of Celestine, and so we're going to be super super suspicious about them. But And I remember you guys asked Fallen a couple really prodding questions and made him feel a little bit upset. And he still needed Machias's help, but he was a little bit aloof for the rest of the trip. You
Like, why did you kidnap our friend?
Yeah, and he was like, I didn't kidnap your friend, and and you were sort of like, well, why did you hire those two weirdos? And he was like, I didn't hire those two weird, they were like, they were perfectly good. Like, I don't know what you're doing. We just need to get back. I'm on a schedule. And so he was sort of a non-character for the trip back um, to Korath. You made it back to Korath. You reported back to Tankus the Silent what had happened, and then what happened? Gers's job.
Which
I was like, I feel like nothing happened. I think we just went and did Gers's job.
What? Nothing happened. No. No.
I don't think we didn't talk to the 12. We didn't go right back to the 12. We did the job first, I believe.
we did the job first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we went to talk to the 12, and then they were like, "Oh, you guys are in a whole heap of trouble. Here, let's help you move along."
That's right. So that's definitely in the future. But so set us up, Joe.
Well, so the job was a public execution
Yep.
of a family, and I don't remember if they were well known. I think they were kind of like an aristocratic family, because there was a festival going on, like
Yep.
a solstice festival or something, and they were going to be there at the festival, like up on a stage, and they needed to be publicly executed at this festival, which is boom, no problem, easy. I can do that in my sleep.
Totally.
But because of story reasons, Gers wanted to have the whole group participate, so we figured out how we can get the group to be involved with this
That's right.
needlessly.
So so you kind of had already decided what their roles would be and how they would play out. And their job and positions were sort of on the level of distraction while you do the murdering.
Right.
You were going to do the stabby stab. They were going to do the look over here, and that was how it was going to go down. It did feel like you were trying to, just find them something to do, where you could have easily done the job,
Right.
and it wouldn't have been any big deal at all.
Which I did. I went out into the town and I got them like some disguises, some outfit, and here you can wear this and blend in.
Right. Right.
It kind of felt like Superman trying to make his friends feel special, so he got him some costumes and was like, "Here, just follow me." But Superman really does all the work, and we just make a mess.
Right. Yeah. Right.
What are you talking about? Never mind.
You all did great.
I did stuff.
Some stuff.
The jobs that you got for everybody were so Rook he got on with like the local kind of guards, and he was able to be sort of a security guard. If anything, just to sort of facilitate the flight after the job was done, but also to kind of just have an ear to the ground, be on the inside after the action. Enceladus and was it Vakias and Drax? Was it Vakias too?
I think it was Machias. Yeah, we were like on this little mini stage, and we were trying to distract the audience.
On a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We choreographed a whole thing.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Did it good?
Doing some fire, like simple fire type.
I mean,
of
the thing was that Vakias was going, like, the way that we choreographed it was we were going to like have a very WWE-esque thing.
Right.
But we wanted to take it another step further and like actually fight and make it seem like this is our WWE thing, but then have it get out of control and get really chaotic. But then we were gonna do that part on purpose.
Yeah.
And it got really out of control.
So before that, Phidias was also he was dressed up as a jester or jongler, and he was just kind of in the crowd juggling and making jokes and pulling coins out of people's ears and kind of his role also was sort of entertainment, but wasn't the main entertainment. And he intelligently just took off before any of the craziness happened.
I think he could see what was coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And that it was going to be a huge shit show.
Right.
And that if everyone was going to get rounded up, it would be best that at least one of us was like free and clear.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he didn't bitch out. He just decided this was not the place to be at the moment.
We didn't really talk about how we were going to get away once the job was done, because I mean, Vakias and I both had our plans. Vakias can turn into an owl and fly away, and Thrax can literally fly.
Yep.
At least far enough into the woods to where they can't see me.
Right.
So we didn't really think about anybody else. That we figured, well, they're in the crowd, they'll be able to get away just fine.
And Enceladus can turn into bats too, so that was no problem. Like the three performers could just literally disappear. They could be gone and not be caught. Nothing to say about how Rook was going to get away, or even Phidias, but even though he just decided to take off early. Yeah, and kind of a behind the screen thing. Like I let you guys plan this, even though it was sort of Joe's. Joe, his character Gura said, "Hey, you guys figure out what you want to do. Your job is distraction. I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna get the job done. You don't have to get your hands dirty." And you guys came up with this plan of this, sort of WWE style, fight, and to make a really big sort of like to do. And arguably up to this point, this was a very, fun, benign festival that was pretty much about harvest and drinking, and it was the time of the harvest celebration where you still had kids there, like the kids were still present, not no, there wasn't just a drunken horde, but that happened later, like that would have happened later in the party, where the kids would have left and parents would have taken them home, and then everyone would have just continued to drink liquid bread and become, very, very drunk. And that was the way this party went all the time. So
the Feast of Voldre is what it was called.
That's right. So you guys were sort of like, hey, let's create a spectacle. Let's take attention away from what's going to happen up on the the noble box seats, as it were. And so it was all about timing. And do you remember who showed up in the
Well, in order, it was Lord Gilbert Reeve,
Yep.
Lady Bridget Reeve, Angeline Reeve were the three targets. Their eldest son wasn't going to be there, Fenrir.
Yep.
But almost inexplicably, that doofus, everyone's favorite assistant to the city lamplighter,
Albertus?
Sir Albertus, what's his last name?
Quinnerin.
We just can't take him.
Right, showed up just dressed like gaudy and just preening and making such a show of
Yep.
being there and being a fancy person sitting up with the fancy people.
Yeah.
And
Fancy people.
Very awning.
just pompous.
Yep.
Imagine somebody that shops at the Buckle on purpose.
Shops at the Buckle. I was about to say, Justin, did we happen to like model this NPC after anybody we know, or is he just kind of like a mishmash?
No, I loosely based on a character called Atherton Wing on Firefly, but so extremely arrogant, very much like he's not even as like skilled as Atherton Wing, but very, very much like I am in the upper echelon, and you are very much not in the upper echelon, and I will just by sheer charm destroy you. And that's his way.
He's a human.
He's very, very much a human. Yeah.
I don't know. There's a part of not me, but like Phidias, that was severely thinking the words of Machiavelli, that it is a pleasure to deceive the deceiver, and find a way to twist that up on him.
I don't know that he even has the depth for that, but
I know, but Phidias does, and he would have a secret kind of drow joy over something like that.
Right. I feel like Albertus is sort of the one that even in the presence of greatness has no idea he's in the presence of greatness. He only sees what people are wearing. Yeah, and himself. Right, exactly.
I don't know. Even in the presence of greatness, he wouldn't understand that he's the turd on the heel of the king. That's why he's in the presence of greatness. Right. He is not important at all.
But, yeah, and he's comical to the point that he is so full of himself that he makes his own comedy because of that. There is nothing funnier than him. So
and he was in fine form that day.
He was in fine form that day. That's right. He made his way into the exclusive box seats next to the Reeve family and flirted and dined and just was sort of a fly in the ointment, as it were.
And the festivities proceeded, and the distraction commenced.
Yep.
The staged fight, and it went off just without a hitch, flawlessly.
I mean,
it did not.
It's sort of like lighting a barrel of gasoline and thinking it's all fine.
I mean, so the plan was to get everybody's attention so that he could get up there and do the thing, and then as soon as he did the deed, I would make sure that everyone saw it by like screaming, oh my God, look at what just happened." Which is exactly what we did.
Right. So Gers, how did you get close?
How did I get close? How did Gers get close? Well, at a certain point in the festivities, Sir Albertus slipped behind Lord Gilbert Reeve and slit his throat.
That's right.
Inexplicably. Why would Sir Albertus do this? And then again, and Bridget and little young innocent Angeline, the whole family, was brutally, heartlessly murdered by Sir Albertus.
Yeah, and
very gruesomely and very terribly.
And then Albertus disappeared into the woods behind the box seats.
Right.
Right. And surprise, Albertus was Gers in disguise. The job was to kill the Reeve family. Done.
Which this was really the second time that the group had seen Gers' disguise abilities. There was one other time that we didn't mention, and people, the players, y'all just kind of went, okay, well, he's really good at disguises. I think nobody ever made anything of it, but this time was a little bit more like
uncanny.
Okay, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
How can this half orc be pulling this off like this?
Right.
Because at this point, Gers has only ever been Gers, the immortal of the half orc.
Right. He's got good prosthetic makeup or something.
Yeah.
At this point,
I did. I had a makeup kit, and I would, do disguises, and I was good at it. But there was more to it than just that, which is covered later.
At this point in time, in our act, we had already, started the fire and were actually fighting. So there were things that were on fire, and people were on fire. Then the murder happened, and of course, oh my God, look at what's just happened. And to our dismay, the guards immediately said to seize me and and Vakias.
Yes.
Um, so we had to take off running, which we did. And I think everybody got out except for Rook.
Yeah. Rook kind of tarried a little bit, and he originally like there was a
His job was security.
his job was security, but I want to say that he was part of like a mock fight or something like that, or there was some suspicion like he was trying to either leave or he was
Two-
um
Basically, two of the guards talked to him and asked him something directly.
yeah
And Jake too in his role play, so something slipped,
yeah
and the DM pounced on it.
it, that sounds right. Yeah.
And
So
it just started putting the pressure on, the heat on,
Oh jeez.
and Rook kind of, oh geez, oh geez.
Oh jeez.
You have to hold a
And
corn dog.
ended up, they kind of said, "You go stand over there.
jeez.
Just stay right there. Don't move. We're gonna need to talk to you
We'll
later."
talk to you
And
later.
he
Yeah.
ended up trying to sneak off and got caught and put in a cage.
He rolled a horrible stealth roll too. He's probably next to Thrax, one of the stealthiest people in the party. He rolled like a 2 or something.
yeah yeah he tried to sneak away. He rolled very poorly in his stealth roll, and he was put into a cage, sort of at the back of like where there were performance animals. The guard sort of did an impromptu like, you're a suspect, we'll throw you in this cage.
Then he
he
used the puppets to try and distract.
he used the puppets to try to distract, and he ended up picking the lock and then just escaping through the woods. And he had sort of a tail on him, of these guards that were trying to find him. And by this time, all of the rest of you were back in Korth at your hideout, or your house, the Chrysalis. And you were sort of saying, I don't know, like, where's Rook? Like, what did we do? How did we leave him behind? And do you guys remember what that? I think Vakias said, "Oh, I'll turn into an owl and I'll go like look for him."
Yeah, Vicky went and found him.
And he found him, and then they kind of made their way back to, like, still in the that night they kind of made their way back to a normal road, and then kind of headed in through a guard station. And the guards were sort of suspicious because there was already like a wanted poster out that had Rook's face on it, right?
Yeah, the next day.
The next day.
Sort of Rook's face.
Sort of Rook's face, like not exactly, just like sort of a rough, sketch.
There's enough of a difference that it could cause doubt.
Yeah. And Vakias and Rook just like kept walking, and walked really quickly to the house, to the Chrysalis. And then what happened? It was early morning at that point. Very
They
early.
they came looking for us.
Yeah.
They came knocking on the door and they wanted to question everyone.
There was an inquisitor that came to the door, and
Mhm.
he asked a bunch of questions.
Yeah, I don't remember who we talked to at first.
I
But
think,
eventually I went out and I said, then they said they were gonna come in and look for Rook. Like, we are coming in here and we're gonna ransack and go through everything and look for Rook. And Gers said, no, 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 you're not gonna do that. Here, take me. I'm the one you want.
yeah.
And they had a paddy wagon there, and so Gers went and got in the paddy wagon and left everyone else back at the Chrysalis. And I don't remember that particular Inquisitor's name.
Let me see if I can find it here. I don't know if I wrote it down. I did name him, but I don't know that the name actually came up.
It was a paddy wagon with some open bars, though. There was a window. And
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the building they took me to either, but it was a very big, imposing building. And he said, "Okay, you're going to come with us in here." And I had in my head that if I go into this building, I'm going to have a hard time getting out. I might never come out.
Yeah, it was sort of like the police station. Like if we're talking, everyday parlance, it was sort of like the detective taking you down to the station, though it was the Inquisitor taking you to the Inquisitor's,
Gonna take you downtown, kid.
gonna
That's
take you
right.
downtown. His name was Joven. I think he did actually introduce himself, but he was an elf and he has introduced himself as Joven, and he was pretty sharp. He
Yeah.
didn't let anything slip by him, but when Gers said, "Hey, I'm the one you want," he said, "All right." Well, he jumped on that and said, "We'll take you." Rook was hiding. He was
Okay.
hiding underneath the stairs, sort of Harry Potter style, and you guys just made sure that he was fully hidden until the heat was off.
If I
Um,
recall, I thought you said we gotta go. Is where Gers is gonna get some of the heat off of us, but then he's probably gonna escape, and we don't want to be here if they ever decide to come back. So didn't we decide to bounce and just
What?
leave?
Yeah, I don't know how the sequence of events, but I know that right before he wanted to take me in, I said, "No, I'm not going in there with you. Um, maybe someday I'll be back for you." And then I disappeared out because
Always
I can
great to
turn.
threaten cops.
Yeah, yeah. I don't I don't know
yeah,
why that I felt the need for that. Anyway, I disappeared into the shadows and disappeared into the crowd.
yeah,
And made my way back to the chrysalis. And then at that point, it was like, hey, we got to do something.
we
Um,
got
and then and then at that point, we decided to seek out the help of the 12 and to report back
yeah,
after our trip to Dragonland, Arganessen.
that's right.
So then we gave some quick instructions to Celestine, promising to send him further messages soon. And as we sneak to the Tower of the 12, it seems everyone is reading one of the two papers that has printed a story about the recent
That's
public execution.
that's right.
And there was two versions of the story, and one was very sensational,
Yep,
and like talked about these crazy, like, I don't know, manticores and Pegasus and
that's right.
fireworks, and the other one was like there was this person and they looked like this, and there was this person and they looked like this, and they were very accurate descriptions.
So the Sharn Inquisitor was the one that blew everything out of proportion. Interviewed the wrong people. We're talking about, yeah, this Manticore attacking the festival, and the Korth Herald was the one that had it pretty spot on. That was it was fairly straightforward reporting, and so you guys were like, it doesn't matter what people are reading. We just need to get at it. Like
Right.
we can't be a part of this because one of them is really accurate and the other one is just off the wall. But
And really, like, what did they have to go on? You guys just created a distraction and evaded, questioning. Basically, they knew nothing
right.
about Gers.
Yeah,
Um,
the Korth Herald was just very factual. It was like
yeah,
this happened and this happened and this happened. It wasn't eerily accurate. It didn't name names. It wasn't anything that would necessarily lead to you, maybe to Rook, but it was just very straightforward reporting. And the Sharn Inquisitive was just off the wall. Let's look for ghosts. Let's look for people under the stairs. Sort of
yeah.
reporting. It might have been the giant carrot in your backyard, or it could have been a manticore, or it could have just been something they ate, sort of thing.
Sounds
So
like sounds like the Sharn Inquisitive.
yeah, right.
We seek out Tankus the Silent, who is, I suppose, kind of in charge when Jont's gone, because
She's
Jont
the
was the
improv
leader.
leader. She's House Civis.
Of Civis.
Yep.
Yeah, we trust her.
Yep.
Gers insists he was responsible for the killings, having manipulated the others to assist him. Tankus seems maybe a little disappointed, that's my opinion, I'm writing this commentary, that we have put ourselves in this position, but says she understands the cost of employing such as us. She's working on the angel Gers suggested to take some of the heat off of the group, which is, I think Gers suggested that, yeah, I don't even remember what it was.
Well, it suggested we sort of like all get new identities and sort of like go do something, like go find sell like go do something else.
Yeah, so we decided to get out of town for a bit. Though the dragons mentioned they could assist us in finding the OG Celestine, we opt to seek help from Merrick's Decaneth instead.
Mm-hmm. Well, so
Well, they said
thing-
if anybody
thing-
knows where he is, it would be Merrick's.
well, the thing is that the dragon, like Andre told you, hey, you might want to go check out and talk to Merrick's. That was actually the advice that the dragon gave you.
Okay.
And you were like, okay, that's like we're gonna take that and go. So
Cool. Tankus helps us get new identification and new outfits for some to get us
Yep.
into Sharn. And remembering viewers that Tankus the Silent is a gnome with mental telepathy
Yeah, with
abilities. So
telepathy.
she doesn't speak; she's mute, but she communicates.
that's right.
Let's see, new outfits. This is Sharn. Gers informs the group he will be adopting a new identity, a human woman named Carefree Cairns. So at this point, Gers reveals to the group that he's not just good at disguises, but he is good at disguises, but he's not just good at disguises because he's actually a changeling.
Right.
And he transforms into this human woman, Carefree Cairns.
Right in front of
right in front of everybody. Not his changeling form. You don't see that, but you see him transform.
That's right.
We decided to depart today on the lightning rail. And that's where that session ended. This is January 21st. I'm sorry, this is January 21st of
Of this year.
2021. So this year.
Yep.
And I don't know, I'm kind of curious if y'all expected that Gers was a changeling or had like what, because I played for months and months and months and months as just a half orc.
You know, for a while, I thought it was just part of being an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
That you were just really these were just magical, like a magical ability to be able to change your appearance. You know, it just I'm like, hey, that would be useful if you were an assassin. It makes sense. He's using some sort of daily that we don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong.
I was wrong.
Well, no, you were right in that it is very helpful to be. That's how he got the job, basically.
Was that how we first found out that you were changeling? Like, I thought that I knew earlier than that for some reason.
I don't know, you might have been able to smell his blood or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, did you tell us or did you just show us?
I know that you didn't know that I was a changeling before the execution, because Justin was like, okay, during this execution, something's gonna happen, and either the group will know that you're a changeling, or you'll have a lot of explaining this away, because it's gonna be very obvious that
Okay, yeah, maybe
there's
that's
something going on.
When you all came back to the chrysalis, I remember that was the time when you sort of admitted like, hey, watch what I can do, and you turned into like Phidias's face, or like you kind of flashed a few of the characters to show everyone,
right.
hey, this is what I am.
That's right.
Yeah. I remember that. I mean, that was a big part of your sort of, like, coming out as a changeling sort of thing. So, right.
So, the next session, Tankus hands us a map of the lightning rail line that will take you to Sharn in the fastest and most direct route. Pardon me. She also hands each of you a rail pass that is good for unlimited rides until the end of the month. And Justin actually sent us a cool picture of the rail pass. And at this point, we kind of all took on new identities.
So do you guys remember what your names were? Because I mean, I have them all here, but
now these were names that we picked out this time.
Yes, that was
time you picked out names. These were names that we picked out.
That's right. For the first time in the whole campaign, I let you guys pick out your own names. So
I remembered
Sure.
mine just now. So Bradley. Yeah.
Actually, I have my notes here of all of our names.
nice.
So I figured this was another thing. Okay, so Thrax was Bradley Leone.
Yep.
Enceladus is Zia Twilight Woods.
Mhm.
Vicaeus is Cornelius Hornstein.
Yep.
His character was hilarious.
Hornstein.
Hornstein.
Yes.
It's
He was Swiss,
Is it-
not German.
He's a Jewish Minotaur.
A Swiss, a Swiss Jew.
It's Hornstein. It's Rosh Hashanah. I need to blow my own horns. All right.
Shauna Tuova.
Gers is Carefree Caden.
Carefree
Yep.
Cairns.
Carefree Cairns. Okay. All right. Rook is Rufus Hammerhall.
Yep.
And Phidias was Zanachka. Just one name.
Zanachka.
Zanachka.
I'm pretty curious how y'all picked your names.
Well, mine is a is a Russian funny phrase. During the Soviet days, when the men would go line up at the factories and get their pay, they would take about a tenth of their pay, Zanachka, hide it inside their wallet, and then take the rest home to the wife. And so she had no idea what was missing, but that was their vodka money. So it just means something hidden.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's so good. I knew the reference to the take the hidden money part, but the something hidden part I didn't connect with until just now. That's
Yeah, well, Phidias chose that on purpose because
yeah, I like
it's
it.
hidden.
Yeah.
He is the 10% hidden.
He is the 10% hidden, yeah.
How did Carefree choose her name?
Carefree chose her name because that she had been Gers for so very long, months and months and months. I don't think Gers had ever been one person like that for so long, except for a few times when he would sneak away and get to actually change and do what he does. And he became this human, and he just felt so carefree when he was out shopping for disguises and stuff that was the new identity he wanted to adopt. Carefree Cairns.
So, with your new identities, you hopped on the lightning rail and at Thronehold, and kind of I described you're trying to get to Sharn, and I described Thronehold line as a circle, and at Star Alaska you'd have to transfer onto another train, and that was a point to point that would take you to Sharn. And because you got a free pass, this was your preferred method of travel. You hop on, but before you hop on, you have problems at the station at Thronehold with an exhibitionist elf that is making trouble. He is conjuring a fire giant in the actual station. And you guys are like, what is going on? We just need to get on this train, but also we probably need to try to stop the fire giant, and you just end up abandoning the fire giant and heading onto the train.
Yeah, it was kind of a turning point in the because we were like, okay, we are getting to Sharn with these new identities. Nobody knows who these identities are, and so during that fight, some people start moving in the fight up close. They're like, oh, this is what we do, we fight. But some people were like fighting off from a distance.
Yep.
And then some people were just finishing their lunch, like,
Yeah.
oh, this is not
Yeah.
my thing.
There's no need
And
to
other
turn
people were just
into an
moving
owl
in.
and start letting people know that I'm that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I made sure not to do anything fire related or very monkey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very aware of your new identities and not wanting to blow them.
But the local lightning rail guards did join in the fray, and when the fire giant was starting to look pretty rough, the guy actually accidentally summoned a second fire giant.
Yep.
Accidentally.
That happened, and that was right as you guys got on the train and headed out, and we're just sort of like, hey, someone else's problem, not ours.
Yeah.
We're gone.
Yeah. We
Which was a nice feeling.
heartlessly watched as the station guards get pulverized by the giant, but
Right.
we may get onto the train,
That's right.
but we do get separated as we board.
Yeah.
And so we're all in different parts of this lightning rail. Cornelius goes to the bar and meets somebody. And do we how is our time looking?
We're nearing the 2 hour mark. We probably should wrap it up soon. I wanted to finish today, but we might have enough for a mini episode.
One more.
Maybe
I think
one more
I think honestly we can recap and then start playing next time.
Yeah.
We
Oh
won't
yeah,
need
that's
to
totally
recap
fine.
the whole time.
That's totally fine.
So
yeah.
I'll just mention the significant person that Cornelius meets at the bar is James the bartender.
Yep.
And he offers Cornelius a family drink, something he calls absinthe.
It's not a family drink. Not a family friendly drink, we should say.
There we go. It's not family friendly. Just because it runs in the family doesn't mean it's friendly.
Right.
He called it a family drink. So Cornelius just starts hallucinating right away. He drinks it and starts hallucinating. So.
He does. Yep. It's not a
Other people are doing other stuff on the train. But like specifically Carefree is going around looking for snacks. Zia, Zanachka, Rufus, and Bradley go snag a car to relax in. They meet a young gnome named Daisy on her way to Zalargo to meet her uncle.
Yep.
After a quick stop in Thalios, we continue on to Fairhaven. Near the end of the 12-hour journey, we are awoken by the train suddenly making an unplanned stop. As an angry mob can be outside and heard protesting and forcing their way onto the lightning rail.
Yep.
And we watch as 2 Orient guards are dragged off board. And that's where we ended that night.
Yep. And that's probably where we should pause and pick up next time. So next time,
James and Daisy.
James and Daisy. Yep. And the party's still on one train. Soon to not be on one train.
What do you mean? Yeah, still.
There's a spoiler alert. there will be a split party here at some point.
It's kind of our thing at this point.
Always a good idea.
The hard part, and I'll end with this. The hard part about having a train is that each car is its own separate microcosm, and you have, some people that decide to be in the bar car, some people that decide to be in the, the open seating car, and some people that decide to stay in the private sleeping cars. And none of them can communicate with each other and understand what's going on until forces sweep their way through the cars and cause rift. So I think what we'll do next time is we'll start with the recap. It should only take at maximum an hour, and then we'll have an actual up to date encounter with map and all the accoutrement, and it'll be fun. And so yeah, it'll be a nice segue into our actual play.
I remember where we left off. I think we were in a hard spot.
You were in a really hard spot.
Yep. Yeah, you guys talk about like it was hard for Joe to be doing his death saves for 2 weeks. I feel like I've been doing death saves for the last 2.5 months.
Yes. Yeah. For those of you listening, you will see that we have been in a very rough spot since July for 2 months, and are trying hard to get back to the tabletop, wanting to do this recap and figure out how to stream and share our adventure with everybody. So you're along for the ride.
We're just doing the multi-month recap before the 1-day TPK.
That
was the end.
And then we all died.
So a task for my players: have another character ready
Oh
before
no!
session, just in case. Actually, I already wrote 12 of them for you, so
that's right.
You'll find that later.
Yep.
So you can
character will be squishy.
Pick up one of the ones I've already written for you. So anyway, thanks for listening to our years of rambling and wonderful storytelling. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Like and subscribe, make comments, suggestions, and we'll pick them up. See you next time.
Bye.
See ya. All right. Stream is